on tariffs, and US President Donald Trump has unveiled a new wave of tariffs, 25% duties on imports from Japan and South Korea, calling them necessary to fix what he calls unfair trade imbalances. Within hours, Trump expanded the tariff hike to 12 more countries, this including Thailand, Indonesia, South Africa and Myanmar, with rates ranging from 25% to a larger 40%. The new rates will take effect on August the 1st, as mentioned, with Trump warning that any retaliation would be met with even higher duties. In letters posted on his Truth Social account, Trump stressed that these measures were needed to reduce America's trade deficit and defend national security. Let's have another listen to Donald Trump.
Subject to negotiate something that's fair, but we've talked to most of the countries, and pretty much they've had their way for many, many decades, as you know, and it was time that we just wanted fairness. This is not really equitable from our standpoint, because it's just a small token by comparison to the damage that's been done over the years, but we had no other president that was willing to do this. I did it in my first term with China and others. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs. No inflation, the most successful period of time that we've ever had financially in the country. The first term, I think this term is going to be much better, even much better than that. That was the best ever, and this is going to be, I think, substantially better, and we're on the way to doing that. We've already taken in over $100 billion worth of tariffs.
Well, Trump's also offered tariff exemptions for foreign companies that shift production to US soil. The move shook global markets, with Wall Street falling sharply. Japanese and Korean exporters took a hit as the dollar surged against the yen and won. Trump says the tariffs are set, but talks may continue if countries come back to the table. Meanwhile, he also said that the US has finalised deals with the UK and China, and is nearing one with India, and has sent tariff letters to others. He insists the rates are fair, even generous, to preserve long-standing international relations. Let's have another listen to US President Donald Trump.
We made a deal with United Kingdom. We made a deal with China. We've made a deal. We're close to making a deal with India. Others we met with, and we don't think we're going to be able to make a deal, so we just send them a letter. If you want to play ball, you have to. This is what you have to pay. So as far as I'm concerned, we're done. We're sending out letters to various countries telling them how much tariffs they have to pay. Some will maybe adjust a little bit, depending if they have a cause. We're not going to be unfair about it. And actually, it's a small fraction compared to what we should be getting. We could be asking for much more, but for the sake of relationships that we've had with a lot of really good countries, we're doing.
Well, Arvin, thank you for staying with us. Further comments there from Donald Trump relating to tariffs. I want to look at new countries that he is looking at. Do you think this is just the next step in his move? Do you think Trump's ultimate goal is to have tariffs on every single country? Or again, is this just a negotiating tactic to strike a better deal in his eyes, to overdo that imbalance and the work that he says has been done over years with previous presidencies?
Well, I will say that the U.S. market has been very open to imports of other countries. And indeed, it is true that many countries have imposed tariffs and other barriers, tariff and non-tariff, on American goods coming into their markets. So I think that is a fact. Now, countries have reasons to do that. Countries are at different stages of development. Less developed countries want to protect their industries, which are nascent, and they want them to become stronger so that they can withstand the international competition. So there are good reasons for countries to impose tariffs and other non-tariff kind of barriers. But it is true that US has less tariffs than many other countries. And what Trump is trying to do is level the playing field on that front. But I would caution us that it's unclear to me if tariffs are the end game. I mean, if you think about it, if you look at what the president during his election campaign had campaigned on, really was not tariffs per se. Tariffs were a device, for one, collecting taxes, and the idea was that that collection will reduce the need for having income taxes to be very high. So it was clearly tariffs were a source of revenue for the government, according to President Trump. The other was that US is running trade deficits with most countries, and by imposing tariffs, it will reduce imports in the US, and therefore our trade imbalance will become less. And we'll end up having a lower deficit in our trade account as well as in our current account. But most important, I would say, is the president's desire to bring manufacturing jobs to the United States. And tariffs were argued to be created whereby US investors will invest and start production in the US. Foreign countries will invest money in the US and create jobs here. And as you had mentioned, the president earlier, for example, said regarding EU that if EU manufactures cars in the US and exports them from the US back to Europe, then they will get credit for that. And the tariff on importation of cars from Europe, the tariff will be less on that. So clearly the president's intention, as far as political rhetoric went, was to redevelop the industrial infrastructure in the United States. And the question which really comes up is, will imposition of tariffs result in a renaissance of manufacturing in the United States?
No.
And that is a difficult question to answer. Well, actually, it's not a difficult question to answer. That is something difficult to achieve because US's competitive advantage at this point is in technology and service and not in manufacturing, especially the blue-collar type of manufacturing which is envisioned. So when I view the issue of tariffs, I'm viewing it from the larger context of what the president is trying to accomplish, which is bring manufacturing back to the United States. And I am not sure how effective increasing tariffs is going to be in achieving that end. We may achieve ends like having reciprocation in tariff rules. We may increase take in tariff taxes. We may indeed even reduce our deficit to some extent. But it's really unclear to me that the larger objective of creating manufacturing jobs in the US, how effectively that is going to be achieved.
Yes, Arvind, if you just stay with us briefly, we're going to look now at US President Donald